right, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of the Chappie and Bengals podcast. Happy to have you guys back. We got a Week 14 slate to go over in the NFL here. Chappie, my guy, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Just, living life. Got a little sick over the weekend here. Fucking great. Felt lovely over that. So recovering a bit from that. But, hey, we love some football. Able to watch some games. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, down here in Canada, it's it's that time of year where we're adjusting a little bit here to the weather. It's dark outside real early. The cold weather is out and about. You kind of go through that get used to the winter phase where your body has to get prepped, so you get a little bit sick. But I feel you, man. I feel you.
Yeah.
So
I'm feeling good about it.
We're taking a look at this slate of games in the NFL, Week 14. Quite a wild ride, but I'd like to say that I'm feeling a little bit better this week, considering we got a win. And
it's all gravy from here now.
I mean, you know what? The boys deserved it, and what a win it was, even though it was just Dallas. Nothing to boast or brag about, but at the same time, the boys needed that one. A lot of stuff we got to talk about. First thing I actually want to touch on is we're going to take a look at some news and notes from around the league here and kind of touch on some of these topics. And we're going to headline this with Mr. Bill Belichek, interviewed for the University of North Carolina job. A lot of speculation going on about this. And I actually just saw tweets recently about him potentially taking the job offer here if everything kind of matches his criteria. So did you hear about this? What are your thoughts on the Bill Belichek to North Carolina?
Yeah, I did hear about it. I'm curious what's going on with, is it blackballing in the NFL? Like, this is just such a weird storyline in general, because you know what his legacy is with the Patriots and all of what he left there behind. And I don't know if it's on his own personal volition that he doesn't want to go back into the NFL, if not for that situation. I just find this incredibly odd, just from it's fine, college and everything, but it's got to be a love for the game that he's just missing out on. And funny enough, his personality has finally come to fruition with the Manning cast and everything that's coming on with Pat McAfee's show. But this is just to me, are there not open, roles and coaching opportunities in the NFL that he would slide into and have a really big effect on a franchise and a team? This is just a curiosity to me. Hey, do your thing. If you're just wanting to love for the game and want to go back to that development of younger players, that's awesome. Give back to that, sure. And you're going to get paid for it, guaranteed. But yeah, I don't know. That's my take. I'm just a little curious about the whole situation with the NFL.
It is interesting. There is this quote coming out. He said, if I was in a college program, the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program. And none of us are going to doubt the fact that Belichick is going to run, obviously, the best college football program that you could ever imagine.
Yep.
But to me, it's just like a guy of his caliber. I don't know why you would want to go to college to coach a team, especially with the position a lot of NFL teams are going to be in the offseason. And even the supply of head coaching candidates out there right now, there isn't a large pool to choose from. You got some guys like Ben Johnson, who's going to be touted out of Detroit for sure. But then, aside from that, there has been no names that have been going around. You got Bill Belichick, you got Mike Vrabel, things like that. Don't you think this guy is going to be in high demand?
Yeah, and these guys have been apart from Ben Johnson, Vrabel and, great coach and has had some history of some different things. And I don't see the, like you said, I don't see the big cast of, superstar head coaches in the making here, aside from Johnson, that's going to get pulled, and probably won't unless they win. Because he said that before too, where he's no, I got unfinished business here. I'm going to win with Detroit. So I just the tier of everything doesn't align unless he's just not getting the opportunity to be a head coach again in the NFL. This is the weird part to me. So I know there was some weird shit that happened at the tail end of his career, especially with Kraft and everything going on with Brady. But to me, it's kind of you know what this guy is.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't, if you could, bring someone in of that caliber like 6 times. Like 6 times. Like that's
Yeah,
all you have
no,
to say.
no questions asked. And
Yeah.
I think honestly, it's funny because he's been kind of, and Ryan Clark came out and mentioned a certain somebody, Bill Belichek, about, Cincinnati struggles
Mm-hmm.
to find a guy in command. And there's been a lot
Yeah,
of
he couldn't afford
speculation
him.
about, yeah, well, that's the thing with our organization. We get that.
That's the
Um,
problem.
and that's the thing, right? So you think he's going to get paid a boatload of money, this and that. But then you go and it's like, okay, well, why are you going to go jump at the first job interview that you have, right? Like, to me, this looks like it's just him wetting his whistle, getting himself back into the game here and just seeing what's out there, going through the interview process before he actually gets to the stuff that matters, like the NFL, right? Like, you're going to have teams that want him there. Why
Yeah,
wouldn't he just
what do
go
you think
mess
this
around and
interview
see?
process looks like? Do you think that he's interviewing them or they're
Yeah,
interviewing him?
absolutely. Yeah, probably.
Like
Like,
what does this
and
process
there
look
was
like?
there was like words coming out like saying that like he had blown them away. I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit. This guy is
What do
like
you got to do?
top two greatest coaches all time, if not one, right? Like, I don't know what to tell you. So it is confusing to me, but we're gonna kind of see how that plays out here. I really hope he doesn't take any job before we get to the NFL teams that need a coach here at the end of the offseason. I would like to see what plays out there with Bill Belichick for sure. But yeah, next topic we want to go in. So there was this plane that had flying over MetLife Stadium saying to the owner there, John Mara, please fix this dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but that's kind of the plane that I've been trying to get going over Paycor Stadium there in Cincinnati. But at the same time, flying a plane over there talking to that owner when he's probably the main reason we suck ass, not going to work. But what did you think of that?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Someone had enough money to and or own the plane and didn't give a fuck, and it's just a big old Giants fan.
They were asking Malik Neighbors after, and he's just like, I saw didn't pay for the plane. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, it's on the heels of all the decisions that they've made, right? Like, if Sean makes it past this offseason, I'll be so fucking impressed. Like, just based on what was happening with the Hard Knocks, we poked fun at that on our page on Instagram, just because it is literally 1-for-1 with what happened in the Austin Powers movie in the game of Blackjack.
Legit.
Like, it is so funny. I'll stay. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What did you do there? I have no idea what your thought process was. And like the faces on all the guys in the room, they're like, I think you should consider keeping Saquon. This is not a good decision, sir. Yeah, like this is absurd to me. What they've done, it is a dumpster fire. There's no part of this that isn't trash right now, except for Malik Neighbors, and he's going to get more frustrated along the way here before he gets happy. So that's the problem with what they have built. I don't even know what currently they are building. Given this Daniel Jones scenario as well, like what is the plan? And I think that's a lot of the frustrations of the Giants fans as well, is what is the plan? What is our direction? What are we doing? We have Neighbors and, we have some defensive assets. Other than that, fuck, what are we doing? So
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are, but so kudos to the fucking guy who flew the plane.
Yeah, fucking hilarious. I love that shit. Yeah. I mean, there's been a slew of just poor decisions by this organization, front office, over the past couple of years, and this is the product you get. So I don't blame them for doing that. I thought it was absolute entertainment. So funny enough though to see that shit.
I didn't. Did they fly it? When did they fly it over? While the game was happening? Pre-game. That's fucking incredible.
Pre-game. It was
should have done it. Should have done a second trip. Yeah, just book it for the entire day.
Just while the game is going on, that would have been even better.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. I mean, kind of going.
Could you imagine covering that?
Yeah.
Like up in the air.
Guys, seems flying object in the air has something tailing behind
what does it. Say there?
Oh, geez. That makes
Chris
sense.
Collinsworth. Would you see this?
Now here's a guy.
Now here's a guy. Now here's a guy.
Got the right idea.
Yeah. Fucking awesome.
Absolutely hilarious. But that kind of brings me to the next topic we got here, just a quick little the Heisman finalists were named. You got 4 of them. You got Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon, Cam Ward from Miami, Travis Hunter from Colorado, and then Ashton Genty from Boise State. And I think it's really there's 4 nominations, but it's really a 2-man race. It's kind of interesting, this race, because you have 2 of probably the most dynamic players in college football history. And to me, I don't know what your thoughts are, but to me, it should be Genty out of Boise State. But because of the fact that you have somebody like Travis Hunter that's played
for that,
both sides of the ball, and not just played, he's incredible on both sides of the ball. It's kind of tough, but to see what Genty's doing is
what would be your
incredible.
take on Hunter in the NFL? Does he get
I'd have him
utilized?
playing 2 ways.
You would.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is like, so there's like the old college argument in baseball that happens, right? Especially considering what's happened with Shohei. There are some players that have that 2-way capability, both a pitcher and a position player or a hitter or something along those lines. Now, there's only one Shohei. There's really only one person that's ever done this, right? Now, does Hunter contain that ability to play on both sides of the ball in the NFL? That's the question. Is it a reality is what we'll kind of come to see, right? Now, Genty, I think, is on pace to beat, who is it, Sanders' record, right?
Yeah.
Like that alone speaks volumes about that talent. And, comparatively, if one did it, how can the next not, right? Absolutely. And if that record gets broken. So to me, this is kind of in my opinion, a 1-horse race. I think Genty's got this locked up, just everything that surrounded him this season. But it is an interesting topic. It's more just like, does that caliber of play translate to the, it definitely has worked in college. And that's what the award is for, the best player, right? So this is where I'd be curious if any of that hypothetical for the NFL is coming into the same play. And kind of, is that going to be a discussion? Because it's often the quarterback situation as well, right?
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to, you're going to have a good coach to be able to coach that kind of guy too, someone that plays both sides of the ball like that. But situationally, like, that's going to be incredible to see a 2-way player. And this is, like you said, there's only one Shohei, and you're kind of seeing that from a 2-way player like him. But he's going to be a top 3 player drafted this year. And I think when you got a team like that needs filled at multiple positions, you got a guy that can plug in 2 sides of the ball. Like, it's pretty crazy. It's going to be cool to see how that translates. But some wicked talent coming into the league in this year's draft. So that was really cool to see this year, and we're going to see how that translates to the NFL. And I'm sure we'll touch on some more college stuff translating to the NFL later on. But that was quick. I just wanted to touch on that, get your thoughts about those 2 guys there. And now some quick injury updates kind of with week 14 here. So biggest one that I saw, Panthers Jonathan Brooks re-tears his ACL. So that's second ACL tear in 13 months. That's got to be pretty devastating, man. Like, that was tough to watch for me.
I haven't seen any of the doctor reports or anything. I follow a bunch of those on Twitter. But this is definitely something that needs to be monitored, right? We've seen really severe injuries come back. Like, Nick Chubb has come back. This is not the end of things by any means, I think, but it is
Cam
definitely
Akers has had 2 Achilles tears.
Cam Akers,
he's still playing.
There's multiple players. Now, does it impact the ability and the long-term success and career? For sure. I think there's going to be an impact. We talked about the situation with, even Christian McCaffrey's legs and what that has turned out to be this season, just because of the volatility of those groups of muscles and different things, right? So this is something that needs to be obviously, adhered
Well, it sucks.
to.
I mean, I don't know if it was was he rushed back? Like, I thought they gave him plenty of time on the recovery
It looked like they
basis
gave
here,
him plenty, right? Like, I don't think,
like, it's been a full year since basically he tore his ACL. So I'm trying to understand, like, was it just coincidence? I mean, he's still young. He's still But who knows what kind of effects this is going to have? But it's sad to
just
see.
wish him all the best, and hopefully
Yeah.
he gets back to it. Right? I think they invested that draft capital. They want to see it, come to fruition. They don't want to see a wasted opportunity like that as well. So I don't know. Carolina's such a fucking shit show. Who knows? But this is one of those things that hopefully comes around for him. Wish him all the best in his recovery, and hopefully that comes too, because this is that's a tough blow, especially when just think you're getting you're getting on the ground running. Pun intended.
Yeah, tough to see. Well, some other ones here. We got Aiden O'Connell. He left the game in an air cast. Turns out he only has a bone bruise in his knee, and he's just questionable to play this weekend. So looked a lot worse at the time. Was speculated to be like season-ending kind of injury, but now just week to week. Then we got Derek Carr fractures his left hand. Looks like he's going to be out for the season there.
Yep.
Derek Carr is a fucking roller coaster if I've ever seen one, man. This guy is what a nightmare to have on my roster.
Yeah, there's also.
Do you see the play too? Like,
I didn't see the play. No, but I heard about it.
Man?
Yeah, no, they think. Yeah, that is right.
I love Derek Carr as a human being, but my God, the football
at least
player
in the last
is
little
like,
bit. The last little bit here has just been challenging.
Tough. But then we got Goddard lands on the IR, so the Eagles will be without him for 4 weeks. George Pickens missed this week. Doubtful for this week's game as well with the hamstring issue. That's going to be huge for Pittsburgh. They're going to match him against the Eagles. Good luck moving the ball against that Eagles team if you don't got Pickens out there. He's a big part of that offense. And then we got Isaac Guerrero. Fucking 49ers running backs, man. I'm telling you, this is wild. Foot injury. He's going to be week to week. Wow. Just I don't get it with the 49ers.
What are we RB4, RB5 at this point?
Yeah. Seriously,
who is it? Bray Parker.
I don't even know the guy. Who 4-string guy? I don't even know his name.
I think it is Ray Parker. No, Patrick Taylor.
Taylor. There you go.
Yeah, Patrick Taylor. Who the fuck is
at
Ray
this
Parker?
point, like everyone's putting up numbers. Guerrero had a huge week, and it's crazy. It's crazy to see. But our last one here, last night's game, DeMarvion Overshown. Looks like he tore his ACL, the rookie linebacker for the Cowboys. That's tough. I think rookie who's been showing good promise this year goes out when games don't really matter that much. That's the biggest thing. And that's what I hate about these games at the end of the year when your teams are out of it and you got players that get injured. That sucks. So like there's potential for him to kind of miss majority or if not all of next year too, based on when this happens. So that sucks. But that kind of wraps up the injury updates we got from this past week. Now let's get into some of these games. I want to start over on Thursday night and want to talk about big topic here that's been kind of discussed. And Lions get a big win here, but a little controversy at the end here with Dan Campbell. Was Dan Campbell wrong for going for it on the 4th down there? Inside the 20-yard line, under a minute to go. It turns out the Lions were the first team since 2000 to go for it on 4th down from inside the opponent's 30 with the score tied in the final minute of regulation, which is pretty fucking crazy.
This guy's got fucking
I'm sure
balls.
I'm sure you guys have all seen the meme. Dan Campbell's got his nuts in the wheelbarrow. And
fucking Stan March.
The man has a set
Randy.
on him. I'll give him that. But what'd you think of that call?
No, I think so. If not for just the brash call, right? Like just a pure fucking balls call. The other thing to this now is what precedent does that set going forward for every defensive coach on 4th down against this fucking team? Because you have to anticipate that it doesn't fucking matter what's happening, what's going on, what the situation is, anything in this game in that particular moment. Dan Campbell doesn't give a fuck. And I think that is the biggest thing for me. Yes, absolutely. Is it a play? Is it the stupid play? Every analytics, everything that's going into that is going to say, absolutely, this is stupid. But the call and just the guy, and he's like, yo, this is fate. I'm going to own this shit no matter what. We're going for this. what are you gonna do? What are you planning? Like,
Yeah,
what as a defensive coach? What are you gonna do to that? If it's like, yo, we have to prepare now for every fucking opportunity for anything that can happen. And what were they 80% of fourth down efficiency? Like,
yeah.
what are you gonna do? Like, I think at this point it's 4 or 5. Like, if this guy's gonna go for this every fucking time, you either plan to be like, well, shit, why do we don't even need this guy to return anything at this point because this guy's just gonna fucking give us the ball, or not, because clearly it's working. Like,
Yeah, their offense is amazing. It's so hard to
yeah,
stop. I
no,
think this
it's
season,
so
and
dynamic, man.
yeah, absolutely. But when you look at this, to me especially, and this season just keeps getting more and more. You see more and more of this from Dan Campbell all year, and it seems like every week I'm just like, this dude is putting on a masterclass in coaching. Every time I watch the Detroit Lions,
And chess, man. Like, this
yeah,
guy's just
tell me
fucking
about it.
like, what's gonna happen next? You tell me, and then
It's
just we're
crazy.
gonna go for it.
And then
You know?
I look at this play and I'm like, oh, the controversy, like, man, like you had the field goal, like odds are you need to kick that. Like we saw what happened in the championship game with Campbell going for it and how that unraveled, right? Like that's great. It works out. Hindsight, like
Yeah.
2020, like it was a great move. You won the game. Um, but then there's people that are questioning it, going like, that's just not a smart move. You take the points and then you
No,
go
it's
out there.
absolutely not a smart move. It's the stupidest fucking move in the world.
So there,
Like,
when you look at it from that perspective, but I will say back to like Dan Campbell and his
yeah.
coaching here, I think what you got to take away is you look at the way that the Detroit defense was playing that game. They were getting
Mm-hmm.
carved up, right? And this is the whole reason why Detroit went for it
Mm-hmm.
there. Dan Campbell went, and the topic was he was saving his defense, and rightfully so, right? The Detroit Lions defense has been completely obliterated by injuries. Their passing defense wasn't great. They've been getting carved up by big plays all game, right? So you got a coach that's like, okay, I have a chance to win this game outright right now, or I kick the points and then I got to let my defense go play with 43 seconds left on the clock. This is what good coaching is right here to a T, and this is why I love it. He just understands the position he is in. He knows what his team can and cannot do. And if you have confidence in your offense to go get that 1-2 yards on a fourth down, ice this game and walk away with a victory, that is coaching 101. He knows his players. He knows what he needs to do to win that. And this is why I argue, like my coach, Zach Taylor, we saw earlier in the season, the Baltimore game where Joe Burrow was so hot and then he ran it into a line, tried to kick a field goal. We all know how that played out. That is the difference between good coaches in this league. Dan Campbell sees what's happening to his defense, knows he has the talent to execute on a fourth and short, and he goes and he fucking does it. He has the confidence in his team to execute that play. And that is when I watch that, I'm just like, man, hats off to that guy because that was brilliantly played, just based
Yeah.
on understanding what was going on. So
No, he's definitely, he's got the buy-in, he's got the team. If he said, "Yo, we're doing this," do you not think every fucking player on that team is like, "Yeah, we fucking
fuck
are.
yeah, that team is
Yeah,
riding with him too,
we're
man.
doing this," and then
That's
it's
it.
done. It's game, man. Game, set, and match. Like, this shit was just locked in the second they said go. Like,
Yeah,
it was automatic. So I love it. I think the Lions are a fucking wagon that you guys want to jump on. Like, I think it's just been fucking an
yeah,
incredible watch. This story alone, among everything, yes. Does it make sense? No. Is it the play that you need to make in that moment to be successful? Yes. Like,
absolutely.
it is the game changing, game breaking. If you're only crazy until it works,
Yeah,
right? Like, so in my opinion, Dan Campbell's fucking nuts, but it works. So
yeah,
go for it. Keep doing it. It's
yeah.
entertaining as fuck. The
It
entertainment
really
product we
is.
talk about, that sign me up.
That's on
This
display
guy's
right
must
there.
watch TV.
Yeah, great coach, and I'm happy for the Lions, man. They just keep stringing them together. On the Packers side of things, funny enough, I think like I saw the combined statistics of Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay. Combined, they only have 3 losses collectively to every other team in the NFL except between themselves. So the only losses
Awesome.
they're accumulating is against each other in divisional
Yeah.
games. The rest of the NFL, they have 3 losses combined, which is fucking
Said this
incredible.
before, best division of football.
Yeah,
Hands
that
down.
it's definitely shown out this year.
Yeah.
We always talk about how this is going to be interesting to watch into the playoff race too. So, Very cool, very cool. But yeah, hats off to Dan Campbell and the Lions. Now I want to kind of segue into another team from that division. We'll talk Minnesota Vikings here. This was the return of Mr. Kirk O'Chains, Kirk Cousins, coming back to Minnesota. They got off to a hot start, but man, Minnesota, we got Jordan Addison, 3 touchdowns in the game. Justin Jefferson, 2 touchdowns in this game. Sam Darnold laying 5 TDs. And we still don't want to give the guy his flowers.
Minnesota money line, Minnesota money line. It's the best thing.
And they just keep going with it. Like
keep
Minnesota,
that
game.
also just puts more on what that Detroit play was, right? Like, it just, and everything that's like, this is not like we got this division and everything's going on here. Like every fucking team here, apart from the Packers, is kind of like, yo, you're done, right? But then Minnesota's right on the heels. So it's not like this is going to be, and Sam Darnold, man, like, you know, I heard about it in different media things over the weekend here. Like, it's the Jets and the Panthers shit.
Yeah.
But all the other coaches that have had Sam Darnold love Sam Darnold, right? And those are good teams, right? Yes, so I think you now talk about what is Sam Darnold here. I think that's a large discussion that's been going on in all the main media outlets is, you know, do you re-sign what's the deal with JJ McCarthy and then Sam Darnold, that situation that's coming here? Do you franchise tag? Do you lock this guy up for another year? Like, because now if you look at this production, 347 yards and 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, and this has happened. We talked about this last week. You know, I believe in Sam Darnold and what he's doing right now with this team. I think this is a well-rounded team. They got opportunities to succeed. They keep shocking people, which at this point is like, how the fuck are you doing that? Yeah. But like 42-21. What did Jordan Addison have 3 tutties?
Yeah. 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. And Justin Jefferson's just like, yeah, by the way, I'm still Justin Jefferson. So, and we talked about that last week too. Like, wait until that guy gets unlocked too. Yeah. I really like the Vikings this season, man. I don't know what it's going to turn into, but just a fucking wicked team to like, because it's one of those underdog stories. Even right now with their record at 11-2, you don't look at this team and say they're 11-2. So every single time this team rolls up and
feel like that, and this is why I don't know what it is about this team, but I look at them and I'm like,
it's the Vikings, man.
Like, just not an 11, Vikings. And it's Sam Darnold. I don't know. But I haven't bought into it, man. I don't know what it is.
I disagreed with that last week. I've been a fan of this shit because I've money line run this every single week, but there's something together collectively with this team. It's not the same as Detroit with what's going on there by any means, but it is a well-balanced team and well put together team. And they're winning football games and they're doing it often. That's and apart from a 2 spell against Detroit and the Rams, this team has been on an absolute run. So you got the Bears, you got the Seahawks, you got Packers, Lions, right? So
absolutely.
Do they go with 2 more wins and 2 more losses, or maybe against the Packers? You know, these are division games, and we'll see. Like, to your point, do they just start? Do they bite a little bit? I'm really excited for week 18, right? Like,
it's going to make that. I mean, must see games last week.
I want to see runs right now, all the way to the end here until Minnesota Vikings take on the Lions in that week. I think it's going to be great leading into things. Yeah, we'll see what that is. Maybe it's a crapshoot game if everything's locked up, but yeah,
I agree. But then you look at so we're talking about the Vikings and how well they're doing. We go to the Falcons and they're on the complete opposite side of things. Is that four losses in a row here for the Atlanta Falcons here? Kirk's just trending downward, it seems like. Like I said, they got out hot, but I don't know what it is. But that's Kirk's always been inconsistent his entire career. But now it's not a good showing. The defense is not playing very good for the Falcons too. And I want to we talk about, I always talk about in the Bengals, this and that. We lost players. Jesse Bates walks, this and that. Atlanta has Jesse Bates now in their secondary. They got fucking cooked. Like, football is a collective game. It doesn't matter. Like they got one of the best safeties in the league back there, and they're still getting cooked. And I look at this and I'm like, you need to have levels to it because the Falcons pass rush is absolute ass. Like
Mhm.
they're clearly missing, and it doesn't matter how good your secondary is if you can't rush the passer. And I see it every week with Cincinnati. The game starts in the trenches, and the Falcons just don't have that. If you can't disrupt Sam Darnold, you're just going to get picked apart. And I think that's what's happening with the Falcons here is they're missing pieces. And like you're not going to win games giving up 40 plus points, 5 touchdowns against you like that. It's just not going to happen. So I know Falcons got to reel it in here. They're in a battle with Tampa Bay right now, and it's not like they dropped below Tampa now, and Tampa wasn't even they had their losing streak earlier in the season too. That division again is just it's going to be
Wow, man.
the 9-8 team getting into the playoffs or something like that. So I mean, I don't know. Do you bench Kirk now? What's going on? Do we go to Michael Penix?
I think, well, I don't know. I think this is falling on Kirk, but it's just because there's no touchdowns, right? Like there's no red zone efficiency from the passing game. And I think that's the problem right now that we're seeing. On top of that, what is this? Four interceptions last week, 2 interceptions this week. I think before that he had one, and before that he had three. So it's like, and he's not passing the ball and scoring by doing so. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest fault of this team right now is they're just reliant on Bijan to score, and everything else, yeah, they're gaining yards. They're getting there, but
Yeah,
they're just
Mooney
not
had a
able to
great
execute.
game,
Yeah, Mooney
but
had a
yeah,
great
they're
game again. Like Darnell
turnovers,
Mooney's
things
been a
like that too,
standout
right?
this season
Yep.
on
Like
this team.
offensively,
Like,
they're moving the ball, they're scoring
yeah,
points, but it's the same thing too. Like
yeah,
defensively, if you can't play that side of the ball as well, then you're not going to win a whole lot of
yeah.
games.
No, you can't spot 42 and say, hey, we're gonna win.
No.
You know more about that than anybody
Yeah.
else.
I mean,
It is what it
fuck, we're
is.
gonna see,
Yeah.
but they're spiraling a little bit.
They
But
are spiraling. I don't know if this like they just gotta kind of hold the line here and just get maybe like you gotta win at least to half of your remaining games in order to
yeah.
have this in this division because it's just such a
Um
crapshoot.
Yeah, I agree. But speaking of spiraling, let's talk about this Eagles passing attack. A lot of controversy coming out of post Eagles game here with AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts. You had Brandon Graham touch on that. If you guys haven't seen that, clearly some beef going on. But then again, this could just be all fabricated stuff that we see on the outside. Who knows what the details of it are? But I want to ask you this: like, how do you feel about the Eagles passing attack? Because when I watch this team, I can kind of see the frustration too from AJ Brown. Not very consistent when it comes to their aerial attack here. And is Jalen Hurts just too dependent on the whole tush push in the running game by Saquon?
Oh, absolutely on that front. Yeah, like the success of Jalen Hurts on in the air has not been his betting call. Like this has not been
No.
his uh his game. That's like if we're saying that that's his game, then we're kind of stupid to be honest. Like they would make there's great to have these assets. They're there when they need them. But like this has not been like his the tush push, the rushing, the goal line stuff. That's the identity that's been formed over the last couple of years here. I this is not the first time AJ Brown has said something about this either. Now, is he saying specifically, and this was my take from this, is he saying specifically that the passing, as in the passing percentage that they're doing in the game, is too little for them to then have success in it? Or is he calling out specifically Jalen Hurts on his passing ability? And that was
Sounds
my
could be a bit of both here, it sounds like.
I think there is a little bit. He's done this. Like he's actually had this before where he's, called out number one, his usage. We've seen him on the sidelines get pissed
Yeah.
off about this shit. This is definitely part of his identity as a player that he wants the ball. And that's, we love that in a guy. Like you want the ball, you want to be the guy. Sweet. Definitely wide receiver one on this team. That was the whole thing about Devontae Smith's growth. Is that going to be able to
Yep.
happen with AJ Brown kind of being the alpha dog saying, no, it's my ball. You're not allowed to touch it. Right. And so there is a passing opportunity with this team. We know that. I don't think it's not efficient though. It's not like Jalen Hurts doesn't throw touchdowns like it's still there, but the game is they're so balanced on offense. The part to me that confuses is like if you're able to win games, shut the fuck up. Like in my
Well, I
opinion,
think he's
like
frustrated because they were on the verge of not winning against the Carolina Panthers team that's pretty
oh
ass,
yes,
right? Now, mind you, they've been
well they're
scrappy past
playing
couple of weeks,
better.
but
Yeah.
yeah, this is the thing though. Like, I think he's frustrated because when shit doesn't go your way, maybe in the running game or whatever it may be, and you're in these games and you need some sort of passing attack,
Mhm.
it's just not there. And I watched a bit of the film from the games, and man, Jalen Hurts just you see AJ Brown out of his routes, and obviously timing and everything is so important for a receiver and their quarterback. He's just pulling it down and he's running a lot of the time, and that's kind of the problem here. Is he's from a quarterback perspective, you got to be able to get the ball out, and you got to be accurate, especially in tighter windows, right? Like, and you see this with these quarterbacks. Like, sure, Jalen Hurts can throw a deep shot, something like that. That's great.
Mhm.
But when it comes to timing and precision and things like that, not his strong suit. And I think that's hurting their passing attack a little bit more. You got these receivers that are winning on the outside, and Jalen Hurts is just simply not putting the ball on them. So I mean, I kind of side with AJ on this, and it's like, I don't know. I gotta not really sure what Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback. I think you get a lot of that stuff covered up by the run game and the tush push and just how this team is fundamentally built. But at the end of the day, it's a team sport too, right? Like, you have your strengths, you have your weaknesses. And if Jalen Hurts has a weakness, you're going to disguise that by being
To me,
gravitating towards your strengths, right?
yeah, I get that too, but like what is his like if they're not running passing plays, which let's just go through. Let's be devil's advocate here. So from week 7, and let's actually even go week 6. From week 6, let me list off the passing attempts. So 25 against Cleveland, 14 against the Giants, 20 against Cincinnati, 24 against Jacksonville, 20 against Dallas, 28 against Washington. He might have hit his over there. 22 against the Rams, 19 against Baltimore, and 21 against Carolina. This is not what this team is doing. So that's
Yeah.
where I would lean more to the passing as a question mark. Like, we're not passing the ball enough to get the value out of an AJ Brown
Yeah.
or a Devonta Smith. Like, that's the question here. I don't think necessarily is it like, hey, are we not winning or we're not being successful? Because clearly 11-2 would say otherwise. And Saquon's MVP type of season would also say otherwise. They are being successful. I think it's kind of like, to me, I think it's just kind of selfish in a way. Like, I think it's, if you're winning and the dynamics of how your team is operating is pretty simple. Pass is not a lot, rush is a lot. Like,
Yeah.
that's the rush pass percentage with your team. Do you feel shitty about that because you're probably not getting a bonus because of your receptions that's in your contract? Yes, that's probably what's leading to that stem
Could
frustration.
be.
But is anything past that from the point of like a team perspective? No, like I wouldn't put this on Jalen Hurts. That's not what he's been. That's what not like the playbook is designed to do in this season. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my takeaway. I don't think this is like, how can you put this on one guy and one part of the team? The team is winning. So what are we
Yeah.
talking about?
Well, I look at it from AJ Brown's standpoint. It's like, man, like, yeah, he probably sees that they could be better in the passing game, and like it needs to be better if they want to be successful down the run. Because
Does it?
who knows, right? Like, we know your strength is there, but also the fact that you can run the ball so well should complement the fact that your passing game is going to be even better. Play action, things like that. But they don't run a lot of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's confusing to me to see, but I get the frustrations, man. I get it.
We've
He's
won 8
open on a
straight.
lot of plays, and yeah,
We won 8 straight. And
well,
and I just listed the last 8 games. Like,
yeah,
has it worked? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So what are we doing? Like, what's
that's your quarterback, man. Like, that's your team. That's how it's
your
built.
QB. Yo, take a page out of Terrell's book. Start crying for the guy because he's fucking. We're
Push-ups
doing
on the
good things
driveway.
here. Yeah.
Listen,
my
all I know is
quarterback, man.
last time this shit happened, AJ Brown went off, and AJ, I'm gonna need you to show out for the boys. I need you in fancy
Yeah,
playoffs
of course
this
you
week,
do.
buddy. Need you in fantasy playoffs. So
Yeah.
let's mend this relationship, and then Jalen throw him 3 tutties and make him feel better.
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah,
It'll
and I
all be
got
gravy.
Jalen on the other side of this, and I'm not going to be in that fucking discussion because Josh Allen and Puka Nacua just fucking destroyed me.
Yeah, let's
So
let's dive into that quickly because I think somebody deserves their flowers for talking the most shit in the offseason here. That's Mr. Chappie, my co-host over here, who's been an absolute shithead, thinks he's Mr. Hotshot.
yes,
And then when it
every
comes to
week.
the stats that have accumulated over the course of the past couple of years, I'm leading in all these categories, and I'm consistently in the playoffs competing, yet he has a cute little championship under his belt.
Mm,
And at what point do we go, okay, yeah, that happened like 4 years ago, dude, time to move on.
yeah.
And this is multiple leagues you're not in the playoffs. So I don't know. Where do we draw the line here, Jeff?
Well,
What's going on?
I'm making it in the other one. I will say that this has been the most frustrating season that I think I've ever watched, given the fact that what
Oh,
am I second in points forward, and I'm going to miss the playoffs.
that,
That
yeah,
is
that, I'll give you
fucking
that.
wild. It's
I'll give you
first in
that.
points against, so that's also fun. So been battling all season. Started 0-4. Thought I had it coming back.
Yeah,
Right. I think
battling.
there was an opportunity. I definitely had called it in the early going. Was like, well, this is done. I don't. The percentage play on me making it now is just very very low.
Yeah, guy
Got
calls it
got it
battling now,
got it
but
right
when it
back.
was
5-5.
mid-season,
Oh, I was like, yo, I'm on a fucking run here. Points
this guy
forward. This
thought
is
he
gonna
was the
happen.
second coming of Christ mid-season when he
Listen,
was trying
all
to
the
bounce
pieces were
back.
falling.
Didn't
It is
go
what
so
it
well
is.
for him. Didn't go so well.
Hey, listen, Josh Allen MVP came through at the end just to
Oh man, I
do the
got something to say
guillotine.
about the MVP
But
race later on, but we'll save
yeah, but
that
this
too.
is no, it is what it is. I think it's an unfortunate turn of events. I will say that you sounded eerily like the Pittsburgh Steelers in that you're consistently in that conversation. And instead of
No,
maybe
no,
the
no, no, no,
Bengals,
no,
where
no.
we had that that opportunity, and I actually did come through on it, unlike the other side.
I don't think
But
so because you're the one that was talking
sometimes you just
shit.
got to compare the good things against the
I
bad.
wasn't talking shit. I just said wait till the end of the year and look
Winners
who's here
win.
now.
Chips
Yeah,
on the
no
board.
shit. And you're not winning anything. So I think we got to
Got
revoke
one over
that
you
shit talking card.
in the dynasty.
We'll
Got
see.
one in the
We'll
crowd.
see how that goes. But
Banners
fantasy has
up.
been it's been a hell of a year. It's funny enough. But let's actually talk about that. Speaking of Josh Allen, let's get into that Bills and Rams game.
Yeah.
We had this was a hell of a game. We got
Mm-hmm.
stats out the wazoo from this one. Highest scoring game of the year. We got questionable coaching decisions. We can start this off any way you want to cut it. But I think, unfortunately, we didn't get to do a take on our preview for this week. I
Mm-hmm.
actually love the Rams in this spot because they're so inconsistent, but they can be so damn good.
They can
And
be
just
deadly,
with the
man.
way both teams were trending here, I was like, the Rams are going to show out in this spot. And sure enough, they did. And man, this was quite the scene. But what was your biggest takeaway from this game?
Um, Josh Allen can't do it all.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest take that we can just hammer through here. Is 6 touchdowns. What did this guy have? 57 fantasy points. In general, that doesn't even fucking matter because this guy had 6 touchdowns, right? 3 passing, 3 rushing, never done, doesn't exist. What else does this guy
Yeah,
need
it
to
was the
do?
first time. Okay, wait a second.
Yeah,
We're gonna slow this down. We're gonna slow this down because I saw the greatest meme, and it's Joe Burrow with the noose around his neck, looking over to Josh Allen. It's that James Franco meme going.
he's been there before.
First time,
First time.
first time. Because I mean, hey, Joe Burrow's been just putting up record stats. We'll talk about that later, and he hasn't had any fucking help. But the second it happens to Josh Allen, here come the fucking violins. Oh, Josh Allen doesn't have any help, this and that.
But
Come
Josh
on.
Allen hasn't had any help. And we talked about this in the preseason that who is this guy
Bills
going to throw
defense has
to?
been playing
And I had
great.
said,
They just did
hey,
not show up that game.
this is an opportunity for Josh Allen to, I think, shine. This might be his MVP season. And that was the discussion that we had because, hey, he's not overly reliant on Stefan Diggs. He doesn't just have to target one guy. There is a lot of opportunity for Josh Allen to come in, throw, run, do his own thing, really start to lead this offense and not be overly reliant on one individual, right?
Right.
Lo and behold, here we are. Now, does the other side of that, to what you just said, need to step up in these games? Absolutely, right? The Rams, can be so deadly that it's a tough matchup. And I think anybody walking in against the Rams right now, a healthy Rams team, we had called this off a little bit earlier in the season just because of Cooper Kupp's, injury history. Nakua was down. Stafford has been historically hurt in the last couple seasons here. He hasn't been as to, what Stafford, he's looked very healthy this season.
Yep.
And there is that opportunity now where, hey, we have a really fucking balanced team again. Kyren, Nakua, Kupp, Stafford all look healthy and good. Team's offense can be very, very dangerous, one of the most dangerous in the league. So this is where that difference between defense, offense, and now ranking those two teams is the Bills an offensive threat. Josh Allen can change a game. He's a game breaker. But given what the defense of the Rams and also what the offense has, I would say that the Rams offense is way better built than the Bills offense. And that was the difference here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rams got talent. They got the receiving core. They got the running back. I don't know what it is with them. It's a defensive thing too. Like, it's just a collection of things. And you see these teams that are so talented offensively, but they battled injuries as well. And I look at, Puka Nacua, dude. Did you see that catch that he made? Multiple, actually, in this game.
Oh, yeah.
And the stats that he's putting up now, like, is he a top 5 receiver in the league now?
For sure. If he's healthy, he's absolutely. Like, this is the crazy part, is like just his, what's happened here, just coming into the league and just kind of taking it by storm in terms of that. Like, this is
rookie records, and he's still going.
It's there. Try and compare that, right? Like, against players that are in the league right now. And
the only guy that's doing more than him is Jamar Chase. That's all I got.
Chase and like Jefferson, obviously, I would say as well.
Even Jefferson, he hasn't really been anything the last 4 weeks until this one. So it was like,
no, Nakua he's a game changer,
unbelievable.
Too. So as long and he's a favorite target. That's the other side. It's eerily reminiscent when it was Cooper and Stafford, and now the new choice is Nakua, right? And so that's been the clear favorite here. So
I want to see the Rams squeeze into the playoffs because, they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
they could.
It's going to be a tight
battle
battle
on
down
anybody.
the stretch.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, that'll be a cool one to watch. I'm going to be cheering the Rams on. And then you got some of the questionable coaching calls. I don't know if you saw at the end of the game there when they're going to get the touchdown. They call the timeout. They have 3 timeouts left. About a minute, just over a minute to play, I think it was. Josh Allen goes for the quarterback sneak and they call a timeout. Like, that timeout, I don't understand the call there because you're down by 9 points. You clearly need to score a touchdown in the first place and then have another possession. So, you waste a timeout and now you're going to have to do an onside kick. So I don't understand the call there. A lot of poor coaching decisions. And you heard Tom Brady kind of going on about that in the broadcast. And I was like, that doesn't really make any sense. I don't know what that call was about. And a lot of Josh Allen's points, just garbage time stuff. Like, I know we talk about stats and that, but you got a Rams defense that's up by 3 scores at one point. It's late in the game. You're playing prevent defense. Josh Allen's going to rip off 25-yard runs. The entire defense is 20, 30 yards down the field. I don't know what to tell you. They're playing soft coverage, and that's where those stats come in. But I think Josh Allen's pulling away with the MVP conversation right here. But I'm going to sit here and look you dead in the face and say Joe Burrow is the MVP of this league. And I don't give a shit what his team record is. I don't know how you can confidently tell me that anybody else should be the MVP in this league aside from what Joe Burrow is.
I really back your backing for your guy. I really do. I
don't see it. This dude is on a fucking tear.
No, efficiency. We had talked about
is
that. He's the quarterback, the absolute prototype quarterback that you want in the pocket in this new day and age, right? This is efficiency at its finest. Now, he doesn't have the comparison to this and to Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen is the most talented quarterback, I think, in this league, by far, in terms of overall Talent?
What is talent though? What is
What is
talent
talent? What
encompass?
talent is rushing for 82
I
yards and 3
this is
touchdowns
so
as a
this is my
quarterback
argument.
and
Before you
throwing
even get into
3.
that, this is the argument I have. You're basing talent on someone's, and this is the same argument I have with Lamar. Just because somebody goes about their business running the football.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, yes, electric running the football, right?
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback position can be played multiple different ways, and we see that, and it's a beautiful thing, right? But when I look at it just from what, like, the tools that they're given and everything, and how the position is to be played, and with supporting cast, this and that, like, Josh Allen is electric, but I just don't think he is on Joe Burrow's level.
Name the wide
I
receiver
don't think
one
so.
for the Buffalo Bills.
Not his game though. Look at our offensive line.
Well, I'm asking.
We have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So now argue that, right?
No, I'm just saying.
You can look at it
name
from
the wide
different
receiver,
perspectives.
right? Like name the wide receiver one for the Bills.
Doesn't matter. You need time to throw.
It's what
I'll
I'm
tell you
saying
this.
is
Let me tell you
creating
this.
offense in any which way and scoring points is equally as important, right? And dynamic as to your argument here, which is Joe Burrow is elite, phenomenal, exceptional. Figure another word out because he's that, right? But it is one dimensional in terms of the how this offense is run because of the receiving core, because of the situation with Joe Burrow and his efficiency. It is one dimensional. We talked about the running game as not a part of this offense, so it's overly reliant. They're also passing in a lot of these games because they have typically been either in close games or behind in games. So that's inflating certain stats for Joe Burrow. On the other flip side, has he been efficient? Absolutely. I would agree with that. But to say that Josh Allen isn't winning games with his talent, I think is a discredit to Josh Allen. And so I think that's where the difference maker here is on Josh Allen as the MVP and Joe Burrow not having that winning team. Now, the defense is a big part of that conversation for the Bengals.
No,
they have been awful, but
that goes into the whole team.
I can't say that Josh Allen doesn't have as much, if not more, effect and impact, like a wins above a replacement, as Joe Burrow does in this season.
So let me ask you this. If they both had the same record, who would be the MVP frontrunner?
I think it's still got to be Josh Allen. The reason for it is it's the same conversation about MVP is what are you doing to lift up your team, right? Like what are you doing to solidify and make these games winnable games? And
technically the MVP is the most valuable player in the league, regardless.
But 42-44 in this game, and the whole time you believe that Josh Allen might be able to pull this thing out, right? And that's a difference maker on what is this season for the Bills and what the season has been for the Bengals, right? There are stops that haven't been made, and there are plays that have been made for Josh Allen that have given them the opportunity to win these games and be first in the AFC East. So I think there's
I'm just going to counter your argument here because I think it's people are just enamored with the way that people go about it, and it's the same thing with Lamar and Josh Allen. And you look at and this is a perfect example. You look at last year's play of the year. It was Lamar Jackson throwing an incomplete pass to himself where he caught it and ran with the ball. Like people are so in love with these plays that are being made that had no effect on the totality of the game. They blew another playoff game. Lamar didn't win a big game, yada, 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 right? But we love to see these plays. Same thing with Josh Allen. Sure, the pass back to him, dive, amazing plays. But when it comes down to just the basic mechanics of the quarterback position, and you go on about, the inflated stats with Joe Burrow, I'm going to tell you this. It's not inflated stats because if he's playing from behind, right? And we just talked about the rushing for Josh Allen there. When you're playing from behind, you are in an obvious passing situation. So he is actually playing at a deficit when it comes to that because they are playing you towards the pass. So nobody is giving you yards like that. They are geared towards playing towards the pass. So you have Joe Burrow with a poor offensive line and a defensive line that knows you're in a pass situation so they can rush the passer, and he is still carving your defense up.
Yeah,
So you're going to sit
they're
there
also
and tell
playing
me that?
deep in different situations,
No, they're
anticipating
not.
pass. There
You
are
got you
some
got a
there.
shit. So his time to throw is probably one of the worst in the league too, because his offensive line isn't going to hold up, right? So you're going to tell me, okay, in obvious passing downs, this dude is throwing for 300 plus yards a game, 3 touchdowns, and has over 25 completions a game. That's not just a
I'm not
defense giving
saying
it
that
to
he's
you.
not efficient or he hasn't been able to make effective throws in good, tight situations. What I am saying, though, on the flip side of this, is remove Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals offense and remove Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills offense. And what is the difference maker on that team? You have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, you're able to have playmakers out there that can run that extra bit after the play. In the same situation with Buffalo, you're dealing with Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, who's had a down year. These guys are not playmakers. There is a clear difference that you remove Josh Allen out of this conversation on the Bills, there is going to be a very, very tough slate ahead of them. Is this team 10-3? No, they're not. Right? If you take the Burrow situation out of Cincinnati and you give that same situation, they're probably the same record that they are today.
Well, when I look at it, it's like Josh Allen doesn't necessarily need the playmakers because of his dual threat capability. And it's the same thing with Lamar. It's why
I
he's
don't
had
disagree,
so
but
much
that's why I'm
success
saying that
with.
there's more leaning to him in that argument then. Like the difference maker is then his ability to change the offense and the defensive schemes against him, wherein you know what the Bengals are going to do. You know what they are. Like that's the clear defining difference here is you
You
can
know that
now
about
you
Josh
have to
Allen
play
too,
it.
though.
Oh, we
Like you
did.
know what
We
their
did
game
with
plan
it when
is,
it
and we
was Stefan
understand that.
Diggs getting the ball. Now, because of the way this team is built, you don't really know what's going to come. Is he going to run? Is he going to break off? Is he going to make the big play on the pass? There's opportunity. Like Khalil Shakir has been a standout in terms of like yards after catch, but
Yeah,
there is a lot of
he's been a great
opportunities
receiver too.
here for is he considered a wide receiver one in this scenario, and should he be in the top 30 of fantasy rankings next year because of it? I don't know, right? But has Josh Allen made that happen for him? Absolutely. To me, that's the MVP.
Interesting. Well then, I mean, there's so many ways you can splice that, but I'm just gonna leave you with I think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the league. Period.
I love that.
And there really is no debate.
That's it.
There is no debate. But before we even get into that Bengals game,
Yeah.
we still got a Chargers Chiefs games that we got to talk about. And to start this one off, Chiefs secure their 9th straight AFC West title. And in classic Chiefs fashion, let's just doink it off the upright here at the end of the game and just have it go your way. The Chiefs are now 10 out of 12 in one score games this year.
Yep.
10 out of 12 in one score games. Are you sick of this yet? Are we collectively sick of watching this shit yet, guys? Because
it has turned the dial. It is the Chiefs league at this point. It is theirs to lose. Everything, and that's why I joke. We made the joke, we had the meme that went out there, got some success there, and just, Chiefs fans are just livid with the podcast right now. They're not happy about our joke. That's fine, because honestly, it's more of a play to your success, honestly and truly. Like the fact that we have these opportunities to make these jokes leans into the idea that, hey, the Chiefs are and have been the best team in the last couple of years of football and have shown up and have been that team and consistent and consistent and consistent. And now it's so much to the point where we're making jokes about goalposts on their side. So like this is what they are. And at this point, like the tight game argument is more, hey, how many of these, I'd like to break this down and maybe we can in another pod, but how many of those games were also codependent on maybe a flag, maybe a picked up flag? We talked about a couple this season already. Now, defining success in terms of the consistency in these wins is a tough argument because, like you just said in that stat there, this team has come and they are fucking efficient in these tight games. So
bro,
at this point,
I can't watch
you
another
got to
Super
be
Bowl
there
with these guys. I can't do it. Man.
Well,
I just
want
want to issue a league wide note
hopefully
to
our guy
all
that
the
we
other
just talked
teams.
about on the other side comes and
Like,
shows up.
man, I need somebody to step up and take these guys out. I really do. When I look at
Josh.
yeah, like Josh Allen was the only one to do it so far this year.
Yeah.
But when I look at the Chiefs, man, you have to be more aggressive. Like the Chargers had a shot there at the end. They played for the field goal. You look, it was third down and they handed the ball off, took the field goal. You can't play football like that against the Chiefs, man. Like you can't allow them to be in a one-score game. If you can get to double digits against the Chiefs, like the Buffalo Bills did, and control the game a little bit, force them to make errors, that is how you win this game. You cannot play to keep the game close. And you know what? The Chargers missing a lot of their weapons as well. They didn't have Ladd. I think they lost Will Disley in the game. A couple of the guys had to step up there. Like they're without J.K. Dobbins. I get that. They struggle. They don't have their offensive weapons. But you cannot play scared against the Chiefs. You have to go in there and you have to be aggressive and you got to get up. And man, I look at this and I'm like, it sucks to see the Bills lose because that's just another game farther they are away from that 1 seed. And it looks like at this point, it's going through Kansas City. And regardless of how bad they may look and how pedestrian this team looks, shit is just going to go their way. You just know it. Flags are going to get thrown, calls are going to go their way, and you can't let it come down to that, man. You just can't. It's fucking frustrating to watch on a weekly basis.
Listen, the old argument, winners win, right? And in this case, they are a mature winning team. They've been together for a long while here.
This is the narrative I'm sick of hearing.
Yeah.
Is this nonsense?
But at the same time, that's like we dove into a bit. You guys are going to start seeing some videos come out on the YouTube channel, so check that out. Breaking down what it takes in terms of your team build. Like we're talking about team builds and percentage of salary cap and dedicated things. And this team has had that formula for the last couple seasons and have been able to balance their team defensively, offensively, contracts, levying off some of this to different things. Obviously, losing Rashee Rice has been a huge deal for this team. I think that's the one difference maker this year on why they aren't really winning these games, is they don't have that playmaker on Mahomes' side that's kind of taken over. Kelsey has definitely lost a step. He's closing in on that retirement into new heights. But that is the situation that's here. And this team is just built foundationally from defense to, we know what Patrick Mahomes is. That's how they've built this crew. And they're effective. It is what it is, and for every argument that goes against them, there's 20 that goes for them. So
Seriously,
it is what it is. Like,
yeah, I mean, it really is. It's just very frustrating to see that teams can't play with these guys, and they just keep flubbing the end of these games to the Chiefs. And I will say, like, what makes them so good is in the moments where they need to have it, like the drives to end the games. And this is why you can't let them have these. You can't give them the ball with time on the clock down 3 points. Like you can't allow them to have these moments because they're so good at that particularly. Like if you keep it close, if you allow them to be there, they're going to figure out a way because they've done it so many times, right? And that's the frustrating thing. But me and you talked about the Chiefs while the game was on there for a little bit, and we were touching on like a prop you can look at is the Patrick Mahomes pass attempts. Big thing that stood out there. Me and Chappie here were going back and forth about this. I don't understand why the Chiefs don't run the ball more. They go into these pockets in the game where Mahomes is forcing a lot of throws, and it's like then they'll just hand the ball off and they'll get like 5 to 8 yards a pop. Yeah. And I'm like, why isn't this like, why aren't we sticking with the run game and basing the game off of that when it's their strong suit right now? It just seems like Mahomes keeps forcing these balls down the field. And you look at his over prop, like he's hitting on the passing attempts, the over continuously because of the fact that I think the Chiefs keep forcing throws. And I don't understand why they aren't so much more reliant on that run game. I think they'd be a much more efficient offense, especially with the play action pass based off that. But
I think it's the same argument that we even said to the other side with the Philadelphia Eagles. It works, right? Like if you're able to consistently do the same run pass percentage every single game and be effective with it, and sometimes even give that defense that space that's required to now back up, back up, back up, back up, right? And now that box isn't as open. Fucking now you run, and now you run 6 in a row, and you get those 8 yards per carry, right? Like that's where I think the difference is here on how effective this team is. Now, I will say the only probably kryptonite to this team in terms of playing in those tight games, and this is the other part, was the spread, right? The spread against the Chiefs right now is 4-8-1, and they're
Yeah.
playing these tight games, and they're getting this massive 6.5, 5.5, 14, and you're seeing these numbers, and they're just not playing to that level.
Yeah.
And so that's the number one other prop that we're kind of talking about, the game prop. But the other side to this is, I'm not sure, like, the one person that I think can really fuck with the Chiefs' head is Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. Because if you're going to have these tight games, the one kryptonite would be the one guy who doesn't give a fuck about a tight game. And he's just going to do anything in his power to play anything at that point. And it's going to throw off that exactly what you just said. One team is going to go for the field goal. That guy's going to go for the fucking play. And that's going to be the difference maker on why one team is going to succeed against the Chiefs against another that is just historically, you don't make the safe play. You can't make the safe play against this team. You got to make the egregious play. And maybe that was a call. Maybe that was a shot across the board here to Andy Reid and the Chiefs and saying, yeah, when the shit that you expect on the safe play from every other team that you face this season, not from us. It's not going to be from us. So
no,
I think it's
that's big, but it's going to come down to like the Chargers aren't built to be that team. Like they're built to kind of just hang in there and maybe will their way to a victory somehow and kind of close that out. And I get it, but the Chiefs, you just can't give them the ball with time on the clock at the end of the game. It's never going to play.
It's the same as Brady back in the day. You just don't want to get that ball in that guy's hand.
All right. That's enough with the Chiefs. We got to talk about some history now. Some fucking history from last night's game. Bengals and Cowboys. You already got me juiced up with the Burrow, Josh Allen conversations here. And it's unfortunate, man. You know, it's unfortunate that I can't be on here talking about my guys in the light that they should be talked about because they are on an absolute tear. And I could sit here for the next 20 minutes and spit out statistics based on last night and the records that they're breaking. But before I even do any of that stuff, I'm going to hand it over to you, man. What'd you think of that finally getting a W for the Bengals and Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase showing there? What'd you think of that, Chappie?
No, this team is offensively gifted, right? Like there's nothing here on the offensive side of the ball that I, throughout 14 weeks of football, have said, nah, they don't have it, right? They do have it. I think we've talked briefly about losing Joe Mixon, what he's doing with the Texans. That's definitely a big loss to how dynamically balanced this offense was. Now they're running into contract situations that they're going to have to resolve. But the team as it's built today is very, very well built offensively, except for maybe the line, as we've talked about. The Cowboys are running against Cooper Rush. This Cowboys team is what they are. We know what they are. They had a little bit of a little prick in their step. They thought they might be something, given the couple wins there. But no, I think we know what the Cowboys are. The defense of the Cowboys has also just not been good at all this season. So again, you run into a Bengals conversation of the offense against this team's defense. Tighter game than probably I would have expected it to be a little bit here, given just, you're either running it through CeeDee Lamb or you're not. That's what they did. They just didn't, Rico Dowdle has been interesting. Like he's just kind of like stepped into it.
It's tough to really. I hate evaluating players,
but
like
against
this
the Bengals defense,
you
the run.
You can't use the Bengals defense as a measuring stick for anybody. He was getting the ball. It was like 5 to 7 yards a pop every time. It was nuts. I feel like if you didn't even throw the ball, you just kept handing it off, you would go straight into the end zone every single drive, it feels like. But you know what? I will give the Bengals defense their flowers for showing up and creating turnovers. They forced some stops in critical moments at times, and that's just something we haven't seen all year. So, they showed out for one game against the Cowboys. Mind you, it's Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Yeah,
but right now, it's beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
A win is a
Yeah.
win in this
Big
league.
play.
Like we just talked about the Chiefs just squeezing out games, like the
Yeah.
Eagles barely beating Carolina, and they're clearly not a great team, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's that time of the year where it doesn't really matter. And I think the biggest thing was just with the way we've been losing all these games, and it looked like it was going that way again. Like we got stopped. We went backwards when we got the ball there at the end, had to punt back to the Dallas Cowboys, and they blocked a punt, and then we just get a miracle play there, and it's like, wow, did something actually go our way? Like I had to take a second there and just like collect myself because I couldn't believe that something had gone our way at the end of a game. It was unbelievable. And
Yeah.
then Dallas in Dallas fashion, Micah Parsons leaving the field. I
Yep.
would be frustrated too. That's a pretty straightforward do not touch the ball play. You know it's dead, or you should know at least. Sad to see, but I mean, then it's Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase to finish the game there and just setting records. And I just want to kind of float some of these out there for the viewers because as bad as the Bengals have been as a unit, yeah, we're witnessing history right now. So I'm going to enjoy it because you're seeing potentially one of the greatest quarterback receiver duos and individual players in the history of the gameplay. And some of the stats: Jamar Chase, first player in NFL history to have 80 plus catches, 1,000 receiving yards, and 7 plus touchdowns in 4 straight years to start a career. The only player to ever do that. And then another one, the last 5 games for Joe Burrow, completed 25 passes, 250 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, and no more than 1 interception. No other quarterback in the history of the NFL has done that in more than 3 consecutive games. And it can just keep going. Jamar
Well,
Chase,
yeah.
youngest player in history to reach 5,000 yards and 40 receiving touchdowns. Like these aren't just like one of, these are records that only they have accomplished. And at the age that Jamar Chase is and the pace that they're on, I think the other one I saw too was they are 5th for most touchdowns of 40 plus yards between a quarterback receiver duo in the history of the league. And it's just getting started.
Yeah,
Like
it
these
is.
guys
It's
are on
just
pace
getting
to
started.
shatter records
Yeah.
if they keep going.
No, they are what they are, right? This is the most dynamic duo and tandem in the league. It's like you just you announce the facts. We agree, right? We know that. Now, what I would say is this team built through those two right now, and the offense and the defense to take you to the promised land. You sniffed it, you saw it for a second,
We
right?
did. It was a good
Flashed before
sniff.
your
I
eyes.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Did you get it? And I think that's where we need to evaluate. If we did some math on this and some just contract potentials here, right? And we're going to be bringing more videos and different things on YouTube to kind of break this down thoroughly. But the current contract structure of this team, 40% potentially is going to be locked up between Jamar, Joe, and T. And that has not historically been a recipe for success. Now, can it be? Sure. There's not saying that history can't be made, like you're making history here. You're talking about history. Can it be done? Sure. The thing is now my question to you, Corey, Bengals, sir, do you think they need to lock up T in this situation given the lack of success on the other side of the ball?
Well, we discussed this in depth today. And I think there's multiple ways you can go about this. And when you talk about the defense struggling so mightily, I think we can all collectively agree that there's going to need to be an overhaul on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of contracts that are most likely going to be coming off the books based off the play of the defense this year. And I want to use the Eagles as a reference because they have a lot of their money tied up in their on their offensive side of the ball as well. You got two receivers that are getting big contracts. You got a running back who's being paid. You have offensive linemen who are being paid, and you have Jalen Hurts who is making essentially the same amount of money as Joe Burrow. Now, the genius behind this is how it's structured as well. So, if you want to call this a copycat league, you better get a fucking good accountant in there and figure out how to manipulate these things to maximize your contract structure. One. Number two, when I look at the Eagles team, they have all the money tied up in the offense because their defense is all built from rookies and they are on rookie contracts, right? Right. So they're utilizing a window right now. So when I look at the Cincinnati Bengals side of things and we go into this draft, we're probably going to have a top hoping 15 pick in the draft, right? The goal is now, this is the problem with the Bengals. They don't know how to draft and develop, which has hindered some of what they've done. And they've, over the past little while here, a lot of their draft picks are tied up on the defensive side of the ball. And they've all been misses. None of those players are somebody that you can build around. And these were top 100 draft picks too, which is sad. And this is why we are where we are. But when I look at that, and I'm going to use the A.J. Brown trade as a reference too, where they traded A.J. Brown. They didn't just let him walk even. They traded him for a first-round pick, drafted Treylon Burks. And how the fuck did that work out for them? GM was fired, head coach was fired, organization fell apart. And it all stemmed from that trade. So why would they let a talent, and just for reference, T. Higgins is the number one prospect on the free agency market right now going into this offseason. So that's how good people view this guy. Why would you let a player like that walk for nothing? When you know how good this offense is, it's you get rid of all the shitty contracts you have on this team and you rebuild this defense through the draft and you allocate the money to that offense and you ride it out the same way the Eagles are doing it. But you have to be smart. You just can't be
you have to structure this. Now, I would
gotta
say
be
the
willing
counter to that argument is if you then structure it in the same case and say you let T walk, you just went on a shit ton of a tangent about how effective Burrow can be as the prototypical quarterback in the NFL out of the pocket. Yeah. So respectfully, then he should be able to turn anyone into a T Higgins, right?
No,
if that's the counter argument. Well, let's talk about that on the other side of the ball. Can you then reinvest that same amount of money that you're going to let walk in T into that player that you historically haven't drafted over the last few years in that defensive position? Now you're acquiring talent at a cost that makes much more sense to the asset and the actual performance that you expect to pay for, rather than develop, which hasn't been done historically, and build that into a team that hasn't historically done that well. I'd much rather acquire that defensive player that I know what I'm getting and go after that with my money, rather than say, hey, I'm going to try and do the same thing that I've been doing over the last few years that hasn't worked out. You have a top 15 pick. It's actually more fortunate that you have the offensive gifts that you do have in this team and you have a losing record and you're going to get a good pick out of this draft, to be able to then pay for that and say, hey, let's get a good young defensive guy. Let's let T walk and let's grab a good defensive player off the free agents market and try and push that value there. And now balance out your team between a contract that's a little bit more defensive minded, some rookie contracts on defense that are going to get some value there, and try and make sense of this. I just don't think the current structure on offense is working for this team, given the fact that Joe Burrow is so fucking good. He can make this work. We were talking about Eric All earlier this season. Like, there is an opportunity for Joe to show up and be worth his contract as well. We just talked about Josh Allen not having that primary guy and what it's done for him, right? I think you forced Joe Burrow's hand in this situation to be the guy that we know he is, in that potential offensive juggernaut that he is, and say, hey, I'm going to go invest in the defense because, Joe, you're on the field too much. At this point, we need you rested. We need you operating at the most high efficiency. Right now, you're actually playing a little too much to actually have influence on this game in the positive, more so than the defense, which should be keeping you, active, going and doing what they need to do. Right now, that's not the case. The defense is getting fucking shredded week over week. And Joe's just kind of sitting there watching this shit and getting more frustrated as it goes and says, "Here you go again." He's like the fucking GTA meme where the guy's walking down the street. What is it,
Oh
Curtis?
shit.
And he's going, "Ah, shit, here we go again." That's every time I see this guy's buying Batmobiles and doing something with fucking models. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is just living his life. Let him live his life a little bit better by not getting hit as much. Have that defense on the field, crushing shit, and just make things happen. That's my take on the
Yeah,
Bengals.
okay.
I think that's what's needed.
It's a cute take and all, but like first and foremost, to go and just acquire people from free agency, number one, you have to look at and evaluate what the market is and what players
Absolutely.
are even there. Number two, I want you to know that. Did you know that we have the second highest paid defensive line in the league on the books right now? And
Anybody
you would
working?
argue that they're probably the worst defensive line. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
defensive
Mm-hmm.
line in the league. And to see that they are second on the books, you got Sam Hubbard, who's just not doing anything. Sheldon Rankins, who's been out with illness. I know it's a little bit more serious, but the defensive line is ass. They're
Mm-hmm.
garbage, and it all starts with pressure. We talk about Trey. The dude gets doubled and triple teamed, and nobody can win one on one defensively. And it all starts in the trenches and getting pressure on a quarterback. And this is why they're getting beat. It doesn't matter. We talked about the Atlanta Falcons earlier. It doesn't matter how good your secondary is if you have absolutely no pass rush whatsoever. The Bengals, for the first time ever, I saw them hit home on a blitz last night in the game. They can't even hit on like 6, 7 man blitzes because it's being picked up. That's how poor their pass rush is. We have to clean house. We have to get rid of all these guys. We're going to have to acquire some of these guys, obviously through free agency, but more so through the draft. You got nobody you're paying on the defensive side of the ball. Nobody. And if you want, I think you need to double down properly this time. Go acquire interior offensive linemen for this team. And I'll tell you how this offense is better as a whole. If they can run the ball, Chase Brown has been amazing this year. We talked about all the, the Joe Mixon stuff, this and that. Every fucking week, Chase Brown is in the end zone, and he's great. The problem is the between the tackles running and the ability to just get under center and willingly run a football like the Detroit Lions do. They will get under center and they will run the ball in short down and distances, and the other team will know, but they still cannot stop it because they just physically outman you and they run the ball very well. And that's what Cincinnati needs because the run game is going to take pressure off of Joe Burrow. It's going to take pressure off the passing attack, and it's going to complement the passing attack. And they're going to be able to control the game a lot more. What happens when you run the ball? You control the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of throwing on 3rd and 1, you're running the ball and you're controlling it. You're wearing defenses down. I think if you go all in on the offense, but you do it properly, you get a fucking real interior offensive line. Learn how to run this ball, complement the passing attack, draft on the defensive side of the ball. I think you can have everything here. And with Joe Burrow's vow of confidence talking about T. Higgins, I don't know. He just seems like more of a calculated individual. I don't think he comes out and just says that to be lip service for the public. I think there's a bigger plan, but we all know Jamar's getting paid. That's for damn sure, and it's going to be interesting to see. But Cincinnati's never had a receiver. They've never had a quarterback like this in their history. And today's day and age, I don't know if you see it, but this organization is getting flame roasted. And they should be.
Yep.
They should be because of what they have. So if you don't think that's going to make them figure shit out, I don't know what to tell you. But I think there's a world where you can pay T and there's both sides of it, but you gotta be willing to commit to that and not just half-ass and tiptoe around the idea of it. You got to spend money and you got to fully commit.
You do.
But
agreed.
Interesting takes this week on the pod here. A little bit of controversy, but my Bengals shit always gets me heated. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But that was solid. We appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Hopefully this week we can get the preview out for you guys. We've been looking at some numbers, kind of diving into some stuff. It's been coming together a little bit more for us on this side of things. We want to be able to get that data out to you guys and give you something to go off here. So appreciate you guys tuning in. This is the Chappie and Bengals podcast. We will see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
Easy.